In this video, we're going to look at how to use the text tool in Photoshop. So I'm in Photoshop and I'm on the Move tool. And if I look at my layers panel, even though my green flower layer isn't visible, I still am selected on it. So I'm on the topmost layer when I go to use the font. If you select T on your keyboard, it's going to pull up the text tool. And let me just do a defaulted font for you guys so it's easy to see. So I have two ways to apply the text tool. I can left click and let go and just start typing. I can left click and drag to create a text box. My preference is using a text box. Pros and cons to both. But so if you want to follow along with me using a text box, you'll see over on your layers panel that a layer has been added in with a T in front of it. So if I type in hello, I can see my text. The tool options bar up here has now changed. So I have the type of font that I'm working in. I have options for making it italic, bold, bold italic. I have the sizing, which is 72. I can see the justification of the font right here. So this is left justified, centered, and right. This is how you apply it in the text box. I have my text color, which is white. And then I have these two other icons here. One is to create a warp text that we'll look at in a moment. And the other is how to work inside the character and paragraph panel. So one of the first things I can do once I've created my text is I can left click and drag to select it. And I can go through here and pick different types of fonts. Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign have hundreds of fonts that you can go through. Some of them feel more professional. When you see a font that has these little footings on the edge, this is called a serif font. When you see a font, I want to see if I can find one that is a sans serif. A sans serif, there's no little footings on the edge of it, and they feel different. I prefer a serif font. I can change the font size by selecting the drop down or typing in. So let's say I really want this to be a big text. Also change the color. Notice how I have the eyedropper here. If I select the purple part of it, and I can go back to the swatch, and I've got my color picker window. I can work through here, so I can either use the eyedropper on the canvas or I can use the color picker window. Let's say I like this orangey color. I select OK. And then for myself, I'm going to left click and drag to fit the text box around the text. And I like how this looks so far. So I'm going to click off of the text box. I can just go to the Move tool. Notice the tool options bar changes. Even though I'm still on the hello text layer, I can't change the text right now. So I'm going to put the text in the middle here, kind of center it. One rule you want to know about text and design, you don't want to do something like this where you put it so tight to the edges. It, one, feels bad, and two, leads your audience's eye right off of the page. So you always want to come in, even if you want this on the edge. And I'm looking at this right now. I'm eyeballing, are the L and the O's distance from the edge equal? So let's say like that. In my case, I want to go back to the center here above the flower. And if I want to go back in and edit my text some more, I can go over to the layers panel and I can double left click the T. And now this text is highlighted. Or I can go back to the text tool and click directly on my text box and it comes back. So I have two options for how to get my text. From here, I have some options on how to edit my text and my paragraph. So for character, paragraph, this character panel, it just gives you the drop down for all the different types of fonts. You can see the size here. For this option right here, this lets you change the spacing. So if you have two lines, like say I had like hello, Miss Sesluk, I can change how spaced out those lines are. I think about this like when you're in a Google Doc and you hit enter 10 times, you don't have to do that in Photoshop. You can change the spacing between the lines. You can change the spacing between the letters. So I'm going to pull the text box out wider and I'm going to drop this to 75. So now they're not as tight. So 0 is kind of like your standard automatic spacing like you would see in Google Doc. You can go up to 50. You can go up to 200. It bops the the O off the paper. I'm going to go back 50. I can change the height of the letters. So I could make this like 150 tall. Or I can change the width of the letters. I could do like that 150 tall. And then I can also do these text changes. So bold, italic, capitalized. Capitalized when it does that like little indent where the letters are a little bit lower. Upper. You can apply multiple options. So like I could do bold and the capitalized. I can do underline. I can do strike through. So within the character panel, there's some options for how to edit the text. I'm going to hit exit out of that, and I'm going to bring my text box back tight around my word. And then finally, I have this text warp option. This lets you change the text so it could be curved. It could do like the fishbowl look. So if I go to style, I drop this down, and I want it to arc above the flower. And I can then edit how bent it is. I can edit the distortion. See how it's pulling to the right more, pulling to the left more. I can use these bars to slide it, or I can type it in. I can do vertical distortion. Go back to 0 on that. I'm going to drop this down to like 15. You can also apply these effects vertically in the design. Go back to horizontal, and I can hit OK. Go to the move tool and change the placement. And that's some of your options for using the text tool in Photoshop.